Well, everybody, I am very excited today because I found out that as a sushi lover, I can actually have vegan sushi. I didn't know that. And I have to tell
Wow.
you, that was one of the biggest challenges when I gave up any kind of meat products and fish and chicken and dairy was giving up sushi. By the way, this is Kathleen Gage with Plant-Based Eating for Health podcast show. And today I am really excited to be talking with Natalie Stewart, who is a vegan lifestyle advocate. And we're going to talk about her background, how she got involved in veganism. But one of the things that I found really interesting is that Natalie credits her life experience and her degree in environmental management as a critical aspect of deepening her conviction to live the life of a sustainable and ethical method and way. So we're going to talk about what Natalie does. She's a coach for women who want to transition to plant-based lifestyles. And with that, Natalie, great to have you here.
Hi, yeah, great to be here, Kathleen. I'm so glad we've met.
Well, me too. And you're from England. You're from the center of England near
Yeah,
London, which fish and chips is a big
that's
thing
right.
in England. I remember because when
Yeah,
I went to England a few years ago, that I definitely had to have fish and chips, but I don't have that anymore.
yeah,
So tell us a little
no,
bit about your
exactly.
your background on how you got involved in the vegan lifestyle and what it is you do.
Yeah, of course, love to. So yes, I'm Natalie and I live in Hertfordshire, which is about 40 minutes north of London. I'm a single mum of two vegan boys, and I have been vegan for around 3 years now, but before that I kind of dabbled a little bit. So fully vegan for about 3 years now, and I am just passionate about this lifestyle, and I love talking about it, and I love to be able to help other people to find it too. It's just absolutely amazing, as you know, Kathleen. So that's a little bit
Absolutely.
about me. I can sort of go back as far as maybe 2013, and really that's when it started to really come into my awareness, I guess.
Hmm.
I was working in a fancy French restaurant, which is definitely nothing to do with veganism. It was full of rich foods, butter and cheese and meat and dairy. Um, but I learned a lot about food in general while I was there, and I did really enjoy myself. But I always knew this was not a healthy lifestyle, and I was really gaining some weight while I worked there, even though we were very busy and we were running around like crazy working in a busy restaurant. I was gaining weight, and it was not healthy what I was eating. So yeah, it was around that time that I kind of first heard about veganism, really. And I don't know if you have it over in the States, but we have a thing called Veganuary in the UK. It's really big. Where do you have that? Where
We
you eat
do.
vegan
We
food?
do.
Yeah,
Yes.
food for the month of January. And I remember 2014 very clearly being really excited about doing Veganuary for the first time. And I was a meat eater, so I was going straight there. And I actually only lasted a couple of weeks. So it was not a great experience for me that very first time I tried to transition. And looking back now, it's almost crazy to say it out loud because of how I feel today. But back then, I found it hard. To be perfectly honest with you, I found it hard. And now when I look back, I realize why. But at the time, I just thought, this is too much for me. I don't understand how this works. I can't manage this. And when I look back now, I realize it's because I just concentrated on removing things from my diet and not about adding things to my diet. And because I was eating a lot of meat and dairy, basically back all those years ago, it was a problem. When you just
Right.
take those things out and you don't add new things in, and you don't learn about the lifestyle, and that's what I just went in blindfolded. And it was tough, really, really tough. So
Right. And I
that's
think a lot
kind
of people, yeah, I think a lot of people do go into it blindly and they don't do a lot of research, or they do it for the wrong reasons, and truly when they
yeah,
look back, they can say, oh, those weren't the best reasons.
yeah,
Myself, when I got started, it was because I had inflammation. And as a woman in my 60s, that's a very common thing to happen. And a part of me was like, well, that just happens as you get older. And the other part of me, the smarter part of me thought, okay, I'm going
right,
to research research this and find out what can I do naturally to eliminate or at least minimize inflammation. Everything leaned towards a plant-based vegan lifestyle. And it's interesting because when I first started, I called myself plant-based, but I didn't call myself vegan. Now I proudly say I am a vegan because I also do it for the animals. And what was it that besides Veganuary, what was it that appealed about the vegan lifestyle to you?
I think for me, it just, as someone who was not particularly healthy, it just sounded so healthy. And I have always, even though I might not have always been very healthy, I really loved the idea of it. I kind of used to get excited about that. I would think, I really do need to sort this out. I want to be a healthy person. I've got children. I want them to be healthy. And it just sounded like this kind of idyllic idea of what health should be, you know, eating.
Let me stop you there. Let me stop you there because you look flippin' healthy. I mean, you look amazingly healthy. Your skin glows. You look like you're at a very healthy weight. You talked about the fact that you were overweight. You had some weight gain. How much overweight were you?
I would say 20 to 30 pounds overweight.
Okay. So that actually pushes us. An issue. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, but well, maybe I was obese. I don't think I was obese. I never checked, but I definitely felt uncomfortable in my clothes. I knew that I had, you know, weight in the wrong places, and I just didn't feel healthy. And now, honestly, I feel fantastic. So
well, and you look great. Your skin is so clear. That's something I noticed the first time we had a conversation, was how clear your skin looks. And I think that's one of the big things for people who do give up animal-based products and dairy-based products, and they go more into a plant-based menu, that we have things that clear up that maybe we didn't even think about, that we just accepted as part of life. Yeah.
That's so true.
Now you help women transition into a plant-based lifestyle and a vegan lifestyle. How much of what you do leans towards plant-based and how much is vegan, and what's the difference in your from your perception?
It's a great question, because when I a little bit like what you mentioned earlier, when I very first started with even the concept of my business and my program, I was a little nervous about using the vegan word, and I thought maybe I should have a plant-based program. I thought maybe it was more inclusive and less scary, because a lot of people do seem to just put some walls when they hear that vegan word, and I thought maybe that's what I should do. But it bugged me, and I worked on it for a while. I sat on it, I chewed on it, I slept on it, and I eventually thought, no, that isn't what I want to do. I want to advocate a vegan lifestyle. That's what I believe in, and that's very important to me. And someone could join the program and perhaps treat it as, you know, an experiment, like a plant-based 8-week program to experiment, or they can come onto it with that full commitment of, no, I'm interested in this because I love the idea of veganism as well, and the philosophy of it. So it definitely is a vegan program. I am fully vegan, and I just think it's a beautiful way to live. So
absolutely,
that's definitely the way it wants to go for me.
You know, one of the things I noticed is that animals actually respond to me differently now. I've worked in the pet industry for years, and I do a lot of animal rescue. We've got horses, dogs, a cat, we have chickens, and most of them are rescues. And it was really interesting when I came to the realization that here I'm rescuing animals and I'm compassionate towards certain animals, but I'm eating other animals. And it was one of those, oh my gosh. And you know, it's so interesting when we do come to that point where we say, yes, I am a vegan. And I even started looking at makeup and clothing. Like I want to buy, what do they call it? Cruelty-free makeup. And so that's something I'd like to put out to people. If you're really wanting to consider this way of life, even go as far as, what do you put on your body? What do you put in your body? Obviously, what do you wear on your body? All of it aligns. Now, with your 8-week program, what does that entail? Like, what would the benefit of somebody joining your program be?
Yeah, so Let me rewind it just slightly on that question and just explain really how it kind of came to be, because 2020 has been a crazy year for everybody. I'm sure we can all agree on that one. Oh yeah. And for me, it's been insane. So the beginning of the year, I kind of had just come out of my degree. So I just finished my 4-year degree in environmental studies. And it was a big deal for me to go back to uni as a single parent, full time, in my late 30s. So I came out of that at the beginning of this year, and I landed a job in an environmental consultancy, and I felt like everything was going in a direction. And then we had the COVID thing. And of course, I don't know if I say of course, in England, we were really locked down tight. We were at home, everything was closed for a good few months. So during that time, it really gave me that reflection time, and I really kind of questioned exactly where I was going to go with the next kind of chapter of my life. And I realized that I really wanted to do something where I was making a difference. And I felt very strongly, like we've discussed, about how important veganism is for me, for everybody, for the planet, for animals, for the environment, of course. And I just kind of thought, I really need to find some way of being more involved in that. And I knew that activism, like active activism, was not my strong desire, but I knew I wanted to do something. Basically, I knew I wanted to do something. And that's kind of how the program idea was born, because I kind of reflected and I thought, well, over the last few years, so many people have said to me, oh, I'd love to do that, but. Oh,
there's always the big but.
Plant-based.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And usually it's the big but they're sitting on. So, you know, it's like if you eat wrong, your butt tends to.
Yeah, just started thinking about that. Yeah, exactly. And I just thought, well, if that's true, if people have got all of these blocks but they do want to do it, then maybe that would be my path, and I could help people to transition.
I love that.
And because it wasn't really easy for me, that's another misconception. People think it's just really easy for me, but it wasn't back in the day. I do understand those frustrations and concerns and those blocks. So I thought, you know what, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create a program that helps women to transition over. So that was kind of how it all came to be.
I love that because, you know, there's a lot of people like myself. My advocacy comes through my podcast show, my blog, through speaking engagements. Yeah. But even though I did get my certificate of completion from Cornell University on plant-based nutrition, I don't want to coach people on what they're eating. That's not my deal. And yet, for people like you, it's a perfect fit. And Ryan Lum, we were talking about Ryan Lum a while ago. We exchanged some emails about him. I had a conversation with him, and he's on my podcast show, and we were talking about advocacy. And he said, what people need to realize is there's all different types of advocacy. And, you know, it could be somebody that, like Ginger Burr, I interviewed her, and she's an image consultant. And her advocacy comes from teaching women what clothes to wear that are vegan friendly. So with your program, who would be your ideal type participant? Yeah.
So my ideal would be, the program is for women, and it would be a woman who knows that she needs to make a change. It might be because she's coming to it from her health perspective. It might be because, like me, she just was really intrigued with the whole lifestyle and wanted to know more. But it's a woman. It doesn't matter what your age is, where you're from. It's a program to help you make that transition. And it can be, you could be a newbie to veganism and have already trialed it on your own, or you could be completely fresh to the idea. And my program can help you navigate so many of those areas that are tricky to start with, like, of course, knowing what to eat and reading the labels, learning to make your own favorite meals, but vegan style. And my program kind of works with, at the beginning, it's a little bit more, there's a bit more hand holding with menu plans and sort of actual things we can go through together. And then as we move through the program, I will coach you on how to make your favorite foods vegan style, because of course nobody lives off somebody else's menu plan. Nobody wants to live on a menu plan anyway. So it's very much about making this work for you, because everybody's got a different family setup, and you know, and likes different foods and has different foods available where they live. So it needs to work for you. And I love what you were saying about the cosmetics and everything like that, because that's another element to my course. It's not just about what we eat.
Nice.
It's
Nice.
also about looking at, you know, the cosmetics, the household products that we're using in our homes. You know, we're going to be looking at what's going on in the environment and how by being vegan you can really make a difference.
Excellent.
And of course talking about the animals as well. So it is a holistic look at things. We're going to think about eating out. We're going to talk about social situations.
Right, right.
A lot of us don't have that support when we first start out with our families. So there's a lot to it. And I doing what I did and just jumping straight in without kind of any idea, it can be a really tough way to do it if you don't have support.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I remember the first restaurant I went to when after I became plant-based, and I asked for a meat-free meal. They had the biggest challenge with that. It was like, well, we've got a salad. It's like, don't you have anything? Do you have beans? Do you have legumes? Do you have lentils? Do you have anything like that? And I had to help them piece together a meal. And more and more restaurants are becoming vegan friendly. And it's interesting because with the COVID, a lot of restaurants in the US, I don't know about the UK, but I know in the US, a lot have shut down. They just can't afford to stay open. And so I'm hoping that through this transition, there's going to be a healthier way to live. And I want to remind people, this is Kathleen Gage with Plant-Based Eating for Health podcast show, and I'm talking with Natalie Stewart. And Natalie is a vegan lifestyle advocate. And Natalie, how do people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so the best way really is to come over to my website, so www.wholefoodwellness.co.uk. So that's kind of the name of my branding is Wholefood Wellness, because I'm very much about that. We can talk about that as well in a moment. But yeah, wholefoodwellness.co.uk is the best place.
Excellent.
But I'm really active on Instagram as well. So I guess you can maybe leave the handle, but yeah, that's wholefood.wellness.uk.
Okay, and we'll make sure to put that in the show notes. Now, I'm curious, with the COVID, I have real strong opinions about a lot of the comorbidity that is causing complications, and I don't want to pass judgment on people, but the fact is that a lot of people, because of their health already being compromised, they're compromising their opportunity for a healthy process through COVID if they should get diagnosed. Like myself, and I'm sure you, if we were to get diagnosed, I have very little concern that I would have complications. I mean, I don't worry about that because I do eat so healthy. How does that play into what you do as far as with the COVID and people who want to get healthy? How does all of that play into the current situation for you?
Well, yeah, it really does matter. It does matter. We do need to be looking at these things. And yeah, being healthy and being of a healthy weight is so important now more than ever. And bizarrely, it's crazy, but obesity is still on the rise. So yeah, we do need to think about this. And I don't know if it's quite the same over with you guys, but I know in the UK, we are really taking veganism on. To be honest, it is becoming more and more accessible, but what we are seeing is more and more vegan junk food.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about that, because that's why I like to say that I am plant-based vegan, because it reminds me that I can be as much of a junk food vegan as I can be a regular food junkie. And so let's talk about healthy choices as far as being a vegan, and what are the junk food choices?
I know, because it's a common mistake to make. You move to this lifestyle and you see in the store you can still buy pizzas and burritos and lasagnas and loads of junky stuff, ice creams and things like that. And they are plant-based, but they're probably not the best thing for you to have. I think they're great transition foods, don't get me wrong, and I don't think that you should never have them. But I think if you just switch to eating those predominantly, you're probably not going to see those benefits that you could if you tried to eat more whole plant foods.
Right.
And I just think that's so important. That message is really important, because I think if you are, in the UK, there's a lot of vegans that are vegans for the animals, which again is amazing. And they don't maybe talk about the health aspect as much. And I think it's really important to talk about that. And that is why in my program, I really want to use whole plant foods as much as possible. And I want to show people that that doesn't mean you're just eating bowls of vegetables and bowls of salads.
Right.
My menu still has curries in it. You can make pizza out of whole plant foods. You can have great burgers. You can even have ice creams and things like that, but you can make them healthy style. And that's something that I've really learned over the last couple of years, is how to do that. I mean, I can make cakes and brownies and all sorts of good things now, that I really still love, but I'm not adding sugar.
Right.
I'm using natural fruits and things like that. And of course, no dairy or anything. And you can eat pretty much, I would say you can eat all of your favorite foods, but you can
Wonderful.
make them in a much more healthy way. And yeah, you don't need to rely on those junky vegan foods, and because it does, you might even gain weight. I hear younger girls particularly worrying about this, that they don't want to be vegan because they think they're going to gain weight because I don't eat carbs, or because vegan junk food, I don't want to have these calories and all of these different things. You don't need to worry. You can do this in a healthy. Well, and carbs aren't evil. It's okay.
Absolutely. And one of the books that really helped me early on is Eat to Live by Dr. Joel Fuhrman, where he really explained the whole misconception people have about carbs, because carbs, the bad carbs, those are the sugars. Those are the foods that just aren't healthy to eat in the first place. So it's not carbs that are the enemy. It's the kind of carbs. And also one of the things I found is the more I eat whole food plant-based, the more energy I have, the more I exercise, the more I move. And so it's kind of this really great domino effect. Now, let's say that somebody wants to get started on a whole food plant-based lifestyle. What would you say are the first 3 things that somebody could do, that if you were coaching them, you'd say, okay, these are the things that are kind of must-dos?
I think the first one really is to have some time thinking about your why you are here and why you want to do this, because it's easy to kind of rush in. And I think that if you really think about it and you get to familiar with your why, and you build a bit of knowledge around that as well, that really helps you, and it keeps you focused on your reasons. So there are so many reasons to be vegan, and there are so many great advantages to it. And maybe people don't know about all of those. So thinking about your why you've come here, and expanding on that is a really good place to start, because it does help so much to be sure that you are doing this for the right reasons, and that you're going to succeed if you know what they are. I think that would be the very first thing. Secondly, I think having some support, having someone to talk to, I think, because I don't know, maybe I'm an anomaly, but I tried to do it completely alone, and I found it pretty tough. So I think having a little, you don't need many people, but having a few other people, and whether they're online people or, genuine people that you know in your life, it's great to be able to talk about it, because the more you talk about it, the more familiar things will become, and the more you'll learn as well, just by having these conversations. And you'll feel more empowered the more you talk about it. If you just keep things inside your own mind, it can be a bit of a lonely place. So I think talking about it is really perfect. And another thing I think is start just swapping some things around in your lifestyle. It's not as daunting as you might feel it is, because there are so many ways that you can still have those familiar foods that you maybe love, like a burger, I was saying it earlier, or if you love pizza, you can have those things, and you can just make some swaps here and there, and all of a sudden your meal is plant-based, and it won't feel like some alien different kind of diet or lifestyle. It's still familiar food to you, but it's just in a more healthy way. So
excellent.
Off the top of my head, I think those would be the 3 things that I
Those are three great recommendations. Know what your why is, put a support system together, and swap out some foods. And with the internet nowadays, there's so many groups that you can join that are, like I belong to one group, Vegan Runners. Ellen Jaffe Jones is the one who runs that, and she's a runner, and I'm a runner, and not a fast runner, but I like being in that group because we talk about more physical things than anything. And then there's, vegans for women over the age of 50. I mean, you can find just about anything you want if you look hard enough.
You can.
So, and again, I want to remind people that this is Kathleen Gage with Plant-Based Eating for Health podcast show, and I'm talking with Natalie Stewart, who is with Wholefood Wellness UK, and we'll put all her contact information below. In the final thoughts of this conversation, what would you give as your parting advice to somebody who really wants to make 2021 a healthy year? They want to start eating healthy and they're ready to move forward. What would you advise to them?
Oh, I would say this is the right time. It really is the right time for you. It's a perfect time, isn't it? It's a new year, 2021. We've been through a crazy 2020. Your health is so important. It really is all you've got. So I think if you are considering this, and you're here, you're listening to Kathleen, you know how amazing lots people are feeling on this diet. You can be one of those people too. It is wonderful, and it is accessible. You just might need a little bit of help here and there, a little bit of education, but I would just say really go for it. There is so much wonderful information on the internet, and I know there's a lot of conflicting information out there, which does make things a little confusing for a lot of people. But if you go to some really good, reputable sources, you find them. I'm sure, Kathleen, you've got lots of resources that you use through your website as well. There's lots and lots of information out there that you can start reading up on, and just go for it. Give it a try and make this your year to become a healthier person. You'll never regret that.
Excellent. Well, Natalie, this has been delightful. I appreciate your insights, and I wish you the very best with your program. And I encourage people, go visit Natalie's website. Again, we'll put that below so that you have easy access to it. This is Kathleen Gage with Plant-Based Eating for Health podcast show, encouraging you, go out, do what you need to do to live a healthy life and live large. Have a great day.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for your commitment to an ethical life through plant-based food choices. The kind of choices that are kind to your body, the environment, and most of all, animals. Be sure to leave a review and rating of the Plant-Based Eating for Health podcast show.